The last 6 or 7 years, I have given a mountain of evidence to the various ministers and government representatives that I've seen. And they always say, oh, leave it with me, I'll get back to you on this. And they never have, ever, over 6 years. It's now blatantly obvious to me that they support the mining industry and their own political futures above their own constituents and the future of Australia.
I just want to draw the committee's attention to that fact that there's gross deficiencies in the way that groundwater modelling has been undertaken, and as a result, the way that they're able to assess the impact on groundwater-dependent ecosystems, on aquifers, drawdown, and all of that has been understated, underplayed, and I believe deliberately misleading.
When Mr. Stewart said agriculture isn't our only industry, he said communities survive on jobs. And I'd like to comment, no, Mr. Stewart, communities survive on food and water. Thank you.
The industry's own work in Queensland in this report has shown that only 6% of people state that they are better off than before the gas industry came. However, their own modelling by the Allen Consulting Group shows that only 16 of these jobs will be filled by locals. The rest will be drawn from existing skill pools in the Hunter Valley and Queensland. Local businesses struggle to gear up quickly enough to capitalise on the boom, and multinational contractors can more easily move in temporarily to ride the wave.
Bryce Kelly, in his submission to the Chief Scientist, he said gas production from the Walloon coal measures will eventually result in hundreds of thousands of megalitres of groundwater being extracted each year. This will depressurise the groundwater system of the Walloon coal measures and adjacent geological formations.
And the project area has been written down to the value of zero presently. So
$0.
$0 it's worth, yeah.
Our property is located 6 kilometres from the northern border of the Narrabri gas project. Santos states in their referral to the Commonwealth under the EPBC Act on page 65 that the Narrabri gas project will cause a significant impact to the groundwater resources of the Gunnedah-Oxley Basin. The use of the word will is definitive. It's not a question of if, but rather a question of when. And we are the families and communities that will be directly and negatively impacted. The risks associated with the CSG industry are so significant that they are considered uninsurable. That is to say that significant adverse impacts are considered almost inevitable. As a landholder, we have primary liability for contamination of the food chain. We approached our own insurance company to mitigate the risk of CSG operations in our region and to safeguard our assets and our livelihood. We were advised that this was not possible. Being unable to obtain insurance leaves us at grave risk, at the mercy of a company with multiple environmental breaches. Santos claims to have in place insurance to cover the risks, but despite repeated requests, they have refused to make this information available for public scrutiny. Far from giving this industry the green light, the New South Wales Chief Scientist recommended a complete overhaul of the CSG industry, including the establishment of an insurance and rehabilitation mechanism. To date, this has not yet been implemented, and yet the government is continuing to roll out this industry across our farmland, our water catchments, our communities, and cultural and heritage sites. In New South Wales, landholders currently do not have the legislated right to refuse access for any and all activities associated with CSG extraction. Consumers want clean, green product.
If you extrapolate that out slightly, then you'd also have suppliers, or people you supply to, who, even if there was a regime in place, but if it was from a coal seam gas area, and they may balk at the fact of taking that product, even if it is has been tested as being without contaminant or clean, green, and so on. It's the perception that at any time there could be a problem, and best to stay away from that product in the marketplace.
That is certainly a very big concern.
I call treason. Who is going to jail for this? It should not be activists, farmers or community members, and it should be for longer than 7 years. What will the Senate committee do?
these people don't have a voice. They've signed petitions, they've lobbied ministers, they've done everything they can. Now the work continues and they're supposed to sit back and let it happen. What are we going to do? We're not going to sit around like people and just sit back on our hands. We're going to go and take action. We're Aussies.
So therefore, when we're given evidence, as we have been today, that the people who are in court and charged are not locals, they're from out of town, that would be because the locals are not being arrested, is that what you're saying?
They're being given infringement notices and not being chargeable yet.
Communities have declared themselves to be gas field free with an overwhelming result of 96%, covering an area now of more than 3 million hectares. We believe it's a government duty to protect rural and cultural heritage, and in the evidence that's been presented today and at other inquiries, we believe there's enough evidence to prove that there is no such thing as coexistence.
Because even if you cover the water, and presumably you cover it to such an extent that it's safe to use, or at least for irrigation purposes or whatever, you're still left with the salt. So then I'm just trying to figure out what you do with it, because there's going to be tons and tons and tons of
That's actually a concern. You know, they're the sorts of things that community have concerns about, that there haven't been answers to date provided by Santos. When we visited Roma, there was a huge contention about what they would do with those sorts of solids. The human excrement that came out of the man camps and these wastes were actually approved to be dumped into an open pit that they were digging on the northern outskirts of the township of Roma. I hate to think that waste from here is going up there, contributing to the community's problems as well up there.
My research into the regulatory policy, however, did not uncover any specification of measurable human health objectives. It didn't uncover any provisions for monitoring the cumulative impact on human health of CSG mining. It did not uncover any steps taken to establish a comprehensive knowledge base about human health